Hey everybody, it's Tuesday, Newsday. You might have seen me on here before. I'm Courtney. I work on the sewing team here at Missouri Star. The weather, I think, around the whole country has been crazy. We're doing 70 degrees again today. We had 70 degrees last week, and it just makes me want to get outside and do stuff, and I stay in my sewing room instead. Have any of you been embroidering for National Embroidery Month, which is February? I love to hand embroider. We're going to look at some today. Um, I found, look at this little darling jacket. One of my friends is pregnant and due. I found this on clearance. So I put the baby's little initial on the collar so far, and I'm going to do some embroidery across the back, but this is the cutest thing ever, I think, on the planet. So that'll be fun. We are here in the Missouri Quilt Museum in actually the Hughes Gallery, which is kind of funny. It's our crazy quilt room, and we have been blessed with so many donations of crazy quilts, and some of the stories behind the quilts are phenomenal, and you'll hear a few of those today. We'll walk around here. Most crazy quilts somewhere will have the finishing date on them. Somewhere they'll also be, usually there's a spider, which brings good luck, and usually a spider web. There's one here, and then there's one on the table here. The other thing they used to do back in the day is when you got invitations to events, they would come on silk ribbons, and some of those are in crazy quilts. We've got some here. This says Delegate, Democratic State Convention, Columbus, Ohio in 1896. And there's another one up at the top, National Encampment. It's just fascinating, the stories in here. One of the missions here at the museum is telling stories, and these are just incredible. The stitching, the fabrics used, they just used what they had, right? They didn't have the selection, but the velvets and the satins and everything on them are just amazing. You'll notice I have the gloves on. I don't want the oil from my hands to get on to the quilts. And I love the finishing of the edge on this. I just think that's stunning. How they put the flaps on, the tumbling flaps. A lot of young girls learn to embroider on the crazy quilts. That's how they learn to embroider. We've got two here on the bed. I just laid this one. This is a fairly new donation. I haven't had really a chance to look at it yet. There's a lot of initials on it, and you can see the wear in some of the fabrics here. This one is from the 1890s. I just think they're fascinating. They're just amazing. And so many parts and pieces of people's handwork are in them, and they're just beautiful. One of the fun stories, we got a donation from a woman. It was her grandmother, and the grandmother spent summers in Montana. Other than that, she lived back east. And the grandmother ended up marrying someone she met at work in one summer. And they found out she worked at a bordello, and the women at the bordello made her a crazy quilt out of their clothes. So imagine the stories behind that crazy quilt. It's just fascinating. Like, you can see these girls just cutting up parts of their dresses for their friend, and Grandma must have been a hoot. So, the quilt under this. Bob, do you want to come up and tell the story about this one? Was this our first acquisition of a crazy quilt?
This was the very first quilt that was donated to the Quilt Museum, the one here on the bed. It has a very interesting story. It's one of my favorite quilts because it tells a lot of the things that go into crazy quilts are all contained in this quilt. The quilt was made in 1891 by a lady, made it as a Christmas present for her granddaughter. So the grandmother, the daughter, and the granddaughter all took turns working on the quilt and stitching. And if you look at it closely, you can find different stitching styles throughout. So it does show that there are three different people have worked on the quilt. The interesting history about the quilt, as I said, this lady made this as a Christmas present for her granddaughter in 1891. The quilt somehow or another ended up in the possession of a bachelor nephew in the family. And he could care less about quilts, but he was very big into motorcycle racing. And when he passed away, his nieces and nephews were in the house cleaning out the house, getting ready for an estate sale, and they found a bundle of rags under his bed. And when they pulled that bundle of rags out, it was all of the racing trophies that he won that he had wrapped up in this quilt. And as such, this quilt probably never saw daylight for over 40 years. And that's why it has stayed so bright and retained all of its color. But there's just so many interesting things in here. Over on that corner, it's got the date that it was finished, Christmas 1891. There's the ribbons, as Courtenay mentioned, from one of the members of the family was an editor of a newspaper. So there's a bunch of ribbons in here that are from editorial dinners back in Pennsylvania, where the newspaper was, that are scattered throughout. It's got a lot of the symbols that you find in typical crazy quilts, like the spider. This one has a symbolic spider in it. There's anchors, there's spider webs, there's butterflies, there's birds. It just has a whole lot of everything you find in a crazy quilt is in this single quilt. It makes it really unique. One of the other interesting aspects about this quilt is, since it had been under the uncle's bed for so many years, bugs and mice had been at the back of it, and so the back and the batting were pretty much gone. So they took it to a quilt restorator. There was 2 spots that needed to be finished. Then the restorator said, well, what should I do for a back? Do you want me to get reproduction fabric? Should I try to find period fabric? What should I do? Well, one of the nieces came up with the idea that the uncle had a bunch of suit coats in his closet. So what they ended up doing was that they took patches of the linings of all of his suit coats, and that's what they used to make the backing of the quilt. And it's really neat. It's a creative use of his suits. It keeps the family name and the family together in the quilt, and it's just neat. Like I say, this is the first quilt that was donated to the museum, and we're really happy with it. It just has everything in it that most crazy quilts will find. Crazy quilts were very popular in the 1880s and 1890s, and then the big popularity fad kind of died out after that time. But you still find there's crazy quilt clubs and groups, and there's starting to be a renewed interest in crazy quilts. So this is fun. This is the Missouri Quilt Museum. This is the gallery that was named after Courtenay. We thought it was very appropriate to have crazy quilts in there. This is another one of our unique quilts. Courtenay mentioned the spider. That is a symbol of good luck for some reason, that people put in crazy quilts that work in a spider. This one has a very obvious spider in it.
Oh, right there.
Up here in the top.
Look at the name.
It's got the date that it was finished on here somewhere.
I'll try to find it.
Here we go. December
18.
Oh, right here at the bottom.
Oh, you found it? Oh, there.
2nd,
Katie found it. 1886. Yeah.
That's what's fun about crazy quilts. You really have to look and find everything in them.
And this one's very heavy in the stitching.
Stitching.
Like heavier than the one we just saw. They go a lot into the blocks, more into the blocks than they did on the one we just saw. So there are no rules. It's just, and I love Rover.
Yeah.
That's a lot of thread work on Rover. And the edge finish is interesting on this as well, the ruffle. And we have another one we'll show you that has some lace on the bottom. But
This quilt has an interesting history to it, too. One day I was here at the desk and the phone rang, and I answered it, and this lady said, "Hi, my husband and I are at a flea market here in Florida, and there's 4 crazy quilts here. If we buy them, can we donate them to the museum?" And I said, "Sure." And then I started asking her for other information, and she just said, "Oh, okay, thank you," and hung up. So I had no idea what was going on with that or anything. And 2 weeks later, this couple comes walking through the door carrying 4 crazy quilts that they had purchased in Florida and brought up and donated to the museum, and this is one of the 4.
It's just amazing.
Another one is the one on the table, and this is an interesting crazy quilt on the table because it was made specifically to be used as a tabletop.
And you can see the lace here on the edge, and then the initials right there, 1884 and 1885. I mean, it's just amazing. So if these have inspired you in any way, guess what we have? We just released, in the last couple of weeks, Misty and Natalie released, we've got 2 kits that you can make your own crazy quilt. So we've got the Crazy Quilt Fabric Stash, because I don't think a lot of us have velvets. Now, some of us might, but I do not have a lot of velvets and satins and anything other than cotton in my fabric stash. But we have a beginning little pattern in this box and a whole wonderful package of curated fabrics. There's this beautiful silk, this chartreuse silk on the back. There's some velvets in here, velveteens, and some canvas. Beautiful way to get started on one of these quilts. You can probably get a pretty good size one out of this, but then you can start. I know upcycling has been big recently, trying to reuse what we've got already. Thrift stores is a great place to shop for some more wool fabric and satins. Hit those racks and save some stuff off of the clearance racks and go to your thrift store. We also have our History in Stitches Crazy Quilt Embroidery Kit. Look at this beautiful collection. So there's all your thread there. You've got a great assortment of colors. You've got this wonderful little book that has, you can copy this and put that on a label. And you can keep track of what you can put your fabric swatch there, the fiber content type, the width amount, how much you paid for it. You can really put a lot of information in here. And then here's this little, I made this quilt for you because. So you can give this, if you're giving it to someone, you can give this along with the beautiful quilt. Here is this beautiful little package here. Let me take this. I can take my gloves off now. Let me open this up. Maybe. Yep. And this beautiful little packaging, the flower on it. And there's some scissors and a needle threader and a needle minder and some needles there for you. So what a beautiful little packaging that is. I think Missouri Star does such a great job with our packaging. Whoever does all that is just incredible. They're really creative and come up with some great stuff. And here's the pattern again. In case you don't need the fabric kit, you get one or the other, you're still going to get a pattern. So that's in there. We'll have links below on where to grab these. I think it's a great fun thing to work on. Start some grandkids or some kids stitching with you, and you can make a crazy quilt of your own and just keep working on it little at a time. We had we have a quilt somewhere in here. I think it was 70 years was the span of what it took to be made. So don't give up on those UFOs. Here's another top over here. This one, 1888 and 1889. There's the spider web. There's probably a spider not too far. That looks like a piano, maybe. I think the shape of this one is interesting. Must go on the bottom of a bed. Then we've got a few old sewing machines. This looks like a griddle maker, but it's actually a sewing. What year is this sewing machine from, Bob?
1861.
1861. But now's the time. Look for lace. You can put lace in these. Look for lace at the Goodwill stores or at the thrift stores. Tear them off of old linens that you've got hanging around that you'll never use. But what a great, we're so fortunate to have this collection here in Hamilton. We open back up March 9th. We'll be open Monday through Friday, 11 to 5, so come see it yourself. As far as me working on projects, I've been working on, at work, I've been working on the next Jenny, starting on the next Jenny box projects. I got the patterns the other day, so I'm starting on those. You guys are going to love them. There's some great stuff. Once again, the girls did great. So I've got one of my sewists starting on one of those, and then I've got plans for another one. And I think you'll all get addicted to some of the projects like you did in the last one. This is one of the little things I made this year, Christmas apron ornaments. Look how cute! Little tiny, and then there's a little pocket in the back for like a gift card. And this is by J Minnis Designs, Minnis. So if you need to go on and buy the pattern. This also has a little pocket on the front, but I figured since I pieced that so small, I didn't want to cover it. But you could do this in any fabrics, 30s fabrics, when those be adorable, and you could just give them all year round. You don't have to make them Christmas. I did just because I was trying to get some Christmas done. And then one of the other things I did was I found this pattern. It was Quilting, AHHH Quilting on Instagram. And she had this really cute Valentine pattern. I bought it and I got on recently and look, she has a really cute floral one that I'm probably going to end up getting. But I just thought that was really cute and fun. And it was just solid fabrics. And this by our sweet friend Missy at the Little Green Bean. This is called the Maker's Carry-All Case. She, on her pattern, she has this piece, but of course she could just use a solid fabric. So I had some of this old Alexander Henry in my stash that I hate to use up, but someday we have to use up all that fabric. And there's all little sorts of zipper pockets in here. There's a little zipper pocket there. There's a zipper pocket here that has, this is vinyl, so you can put something in there. And she also has a pattern for a little needle case, which is fabulous because I'm always sticking needles places I shouldn't. And then there's another pocket. I guess that's it for pockets, but you wouldn't even have to put this in there if you didn't want. You could use it for another pocket. But I thought it was just really cute, and I love how you do the zipper. And it was a really easy and fun pattern, and it'd make great gifts so you can start on Christmas or whatever gifts.
It's never too early to start Christmas.
It is never, and every year I say when it comes to Christmas, I'm going to start right after Christmas with next year, and I never do it. I'm always last minute Nelly. I can't help it, but I hope everyone is having a great February. Spring is coming. I think our trees are really confused, but that's okay. But hop online and get yourself one of those embroidery kits and start yourself on a crazy quilt. And maybe someday we'll have one of your quilts here in the museum. Have a great day, everybody.